Now it is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker of this evening, Ruben Barrales. He graduated from UC Riverside in 1984 with a bachelor's degree in political science and administrative studies. He has an extensive background in both government and private industry, with experience as an elected official and as an advocate for business. He served for 5 years in the White House as Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush, where he was the President's liaison to state and local elected officials. Prior to joining the President's staff, Mr. Barrales became the first Latino elected to San Mateo County Board of Supervisors in 1992 and was re-elected as president of the board in 1996. In 2005, Mr. Barrales received the Ohtli Award from the government of Mexico for his commitment to improving the well-being of Hispanics in the United States. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ruben Barrales.
Thank you, Dean Wong, Chancellor White, and thank you to the leadership and the faculty of the University of California, Riverside, the School of Business Administration, and the A. Gary Anderson Graduate School of Management. Most of all, congratulations to you, the graduates, members of the class of 2012. Today is your day. Congratulations. Graduates, I'd like you to take a moment to stand up, turn around, and thank and acknowledge and wave to your parents and family and friends who are here to support you this evening. Graduates, remember to thank your parents. Be grateful and kind to your parents, not just for all that they have done to you up to this point, but let's be honest, it's a tough economy out there, and you may need to move back home longer than either of you want. Like so many of you, I'm very concerned about the state of public education, higher education in the state of California. And I'm not talking about the cuts in the state budget, and I'm not talking about the increased student fees. I am, of course, talking about the judgment to invite me to be your commencement speaker tonight. Actually, it's great to be back at UCR, home of the Highlanders. Undefeated in football since 1976. That's a mighty tradition you will have to uphold. Now here's a scary thought. 28 years ago today, I was in your spot. Looking out at you, I'm reminded of my own graduation. Although I do recall bigger 80s hair back then under the mortar boards. One thing I don't remember at all was the commencement speaker. So I never imagined that I'd have to be up here, and I now realize how important it is to pay attention to the commencement speaker. The best advice I received, I should have talked to Chancellor White before to get a copy of his outline. The best advice I received about giving remarks like these is to make them laugh, to inspire, and if you can't do any of that, you sure as heck better keep it brief. My comments will be very short. For those of you graduating with honors and with high honors, I commend you. You've accomplished much, and much is expected of you. To the rest of you, my only encouragement is that one day, like me, you can deliver the commencement speech at your alma mater. Along those lines, I remember when I was at UCR, some of my former professors were a little surprised to see me here this afternoon. But I thank them for their guidance and their patience. It made the difference. I'll recall they encouraged me. They said, "You can make it." They said, "You can race up to the sea." They, of course, were not talking about the sea on the Box Spring Mountain. They were talking about my grades. I'm also very grateful for the statute of limitations that makes me immune from any prosecution for any indiscretions of youth that I may have committed while an undergrad at UCR. I'm sure there are a few rules that have been established since the 1980s that might informally have my name associated with them. It does lead me to wonder, is there an establishment called The Barn still open on campus? Okay, good to see it made it through. And is it technically still frowned upon to drive official campus suburban vans on road trips across the border to Mexico? Is that still frowned upon? I'm just wondering. I owe a lot to UC Riverside. I learned many things on this campus. Some of those things I actually learned in the classrooms. I learned about supply and demand. I learned about basic biology in Dirty 30. I learned to savor the taste of cold pizza, and I learned that fire extinguishers can set off fire alarms in dorm rooms. Don't play with those. I learned how to play ultimate frisbee, and I met the love of my life right here at UCR. So, my bit advice to you, my main advice, is don't leave. What are you thinking? Stay in school. It's rough out there. So, but obviously you're all dressed up and ready to go. So, if you insist on it, I do have a few lessons that I've learned the hard way. And as a fellow Highlander, I want to tell you about life beyond the confines of campus, away from the bell tower, exams, and grades. I think of it as Confessions of a Former UCR RA. So lesson one, and I know many of you already know this, don't be afraid of hard work. Abraham Lincoln supposedly said, "Good things come to those who wait, but only those things left behind by those who hustle." My parents were Mexican immigrants. Spanish was my first language. Both my parents were manual laborers, and they worked very hard, like many of your parents, so that you could live a better life. My father, who never studied beyond elementary school, was a roofer. My mother went as far as high school in Mexico and moved to the US as a teenager. She was a factory worker who eventually owned a neighborhood coffee shop, and I grew up weekends and summers working on the roof. Like many of you, I was the first in my family to attend a university. I left home in the San Francisco Bay Area to come to UCR, mainly to get away from hard manual labor in my family businesses. I graduated and returned home, like I know many of you are going to do. Some of my friends were off to law school, some were going to medical school, management school, and the like. I went home to the Bay Area and became the best educated roofer on the San Francisco Peninsula, mopping hot tar and nailing shingles under the sun. I had no particular direction or path or vision for my future. I had no plan. So this is going to sound a little quaint, I understand, but what made a difference for me in my life after graduating was to start with hard work. Working hard, I believe, is a prerequisite for success. Your education is great. Now you're prepared to work and to build your future. What you do immediately after graduation is not what you will be doing years from now. So hang up your diploma on a wall and roll up your sleeves. Your first job may not be your first choice. Could be entry-level, low pay, or maybe even no pay volunteer work. It's not about the job. It's about you working and building your ethic, your work ethic, your reputation, and your future one step at a time. Second lesson is to do what you love. When you can, do what you love. I did not love roofing. I love policy and politics and community affairs, and I wanted to do them, not study them. I enrolled part-time up in the Bay Area in graduate classes just so that I could get internships, read work for free with those who I thought were the best at doing what I wanted to do. As I could, I fit it into my work schedule. I interned, I volunteered with nonprofit organizations, community groups, trained as a community mediator, and served on a county commission. And I remember driving back from my UCR graduation, reading a profile in a newspaper about a well-known Bay Area political consultant, and that was really the first time that I thought of the possibility of making a living by doing something that I love. And so I thought, that's what I want to do, and I went to him and asked for an entry-level internship. That led to working on campaigns and eventually running for office. I worked hard, and I did what I loved. That work paid off, and my so-called career path led me to being an elected official at a young age, working with some of the most successful venture capitalists and high-tech leaders in Silicon Valley, and serving in the White House as an assistant to the President of the United States. It's not a bad gig for a skinny Mexican kid from UCR. Your path will be different, but it begins by you doing what you love, which leads me to my next lesson, which is to do what you think is right. When I was not much older than many of you, I decided that I wanted to improve my little corner of the world, a little working class neighborhood, immigrant neighborhood on the east side of a town called Redwood City. Bars and auto shops, thrift stores, Mexican restaurants. The county government had jurisdiction over my neighborhood. And I decided I was going to run for county board of supervisors. I had no money, I had no organization, and I had no experience to speak of. And I was running against not one, but two former mayors of adjoining towns. A deciding moment for me came when the leading candidate, a former mayor of Redwood City, sat down with me in a windowless conference room in the county office building. He began to offer me a pretty sweet deal. He would hire me as one of his staff members, a guaranteed job for a hungry college grad, in exchange for me dropping out of the race. I had no reason to believe that I could even win that race, but I knew in my heart that I could not accept that offer. With a lot of luck and, again, a lot of hard work, we managed to win that election. And it couldn't have been any closer. I won with 50.1% of the vote. One vote per precinct. Really could have gone either way, but I would have done it even if the results were different. Follow your gut, your heart, and with hard work and luck, you will get to your goals. Like Thomas Jefferson, I'm a great believer in luck. I find the harder I work, the more of it I have. During that campaign, I went door to door, I went business to business. In one neighborhood restaurant, I got in a heated debate with the owner. She was a Mexican immigrant with very strong opinions, and she was very skeptical about any political candidate. It was tough. I think I finally earned her vote. I had to say, finally, Mom, please, I need your vote. And I think she did end up voting for me, but it's just another reason to show appreciation for your parents today and every day. You never know when you might need their vote. The fourth lesson is to pay yourself first and save. George Clausen wrote The Richest Man in Babylon, in which he says, pay yourself first. Set aside at least 10% of everything you earn for your future. No matter how much or how little you make, save 10% of your earnings. Now, there have been times in my life when I've made very little money, and there have been times when I've done a little bit better than that. And looking back on all those times, I can assure you that I never saved or invested enough. And it may sound a little old-fashioned in a Facebook and Twitter world, but a discipline of saving can provide you with financial freedom later in life, especially for those of you who choose to follow your dreams in a field that may be personally rewarding but not financially spectacular. It's been said that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. Start saving at your age, and your money will work for you and help you towards financial independence by the time you reach my ripe old age and beyond. Another lesson, floss once a day. I don't have a story about it, it's just a very important habit. Number 6, love those around you today. Life can change in an instant. It was a wet, overcast day on the San Francisco Peninsula. I was on the roof and I saw my father misstep and slide off the roof and land on a hard concrete slab. He was a strong and proud man, and in one instant he was paralyzed and broken. My friend Scott Cranny graduated with me here 28 years ago. We stood together right here on this lawn. We had some good times here at UCR. And I'll always remember the phone call in my office overlooking the San Diego Bay telling me that he passed away suddenly and unexpectedly recently. Just for the record, it was Scott who pulled the fire alarm at A&I. So live life now and appreciate your time here and love those around you today. And a final lesson, know that you will get through tough times in your life. Life is a cycle with inevitable ups and downs. You, like everyone else, will face difficulties in your personal relationships and in your professional life. Know that you will face it, and know more importantly that you'll get through it. If you truly live, you will experience heartbreak and disappointment and loss and failure, but there'll also be birth and anticipation and hope and victory and success. And at times, you will feel like you're on top of the world. And other points in your life, you'll feel like you're on the bottom. Life is tough sometimes. And just know that you'll get through it and it'll get better again. A good attitude can help you get through the inevitable tough times. And don't try to insulate yourself from loss or hardship either. You can't, and the truth is, you don't want to live your life like the Highlander football team, undefeated and uninjured for decades, but with no wins. Get out there and play. It's going to hurt sometimes, but that's life. I ran for statewide office, and I lost miserably. There was no consolation prize for second place. It's a winner-take-all system. But during that losing effort, I got the opportunity to meet a governor from a southern state who went on to become president. He invited me to work at the White House. And I came to realize that if I never took that chance, and if I never lost, I never would have experienced being a commissioned officer at the White House, or briefing the President of the United States in the Oval Office, or serving on a task force with Secretary Colin Powell, or traveling on Air Force One. If I didn't run and lose that race, I would have remained undefeated in my political career, and I would have ended without those experiences. Mark Twain said, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things that you don't do than the ones that you do. Explore, dream, and discover. You are educated men and women with masters and bachelors of management from the University of California. You have the basic tools to succeed in life and to change our world for the better. Life can be hard, but as long as you're not afraid to work hard, do what you love, do what you think is right, start saving at an early age, have a good attitude, and of course, floss every day, you'll be all right. In conclusion, my main message to you, class of 2012, and it occurs to me, it's probably the reason I was asked and invited to address you today. My main message to you is if somebody like me can have professional and personal success after UCR, there is no limit to what all of you can do. Do something good, make us proud. Congratulations and good luck.